Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. The prayers of Akrura, chapter 40, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This chapter relates Akrura's prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Akrura prayed, Brahma, who created this visible world, emanated from the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. The five elements of physical nature, the five corresponding objects of perception, the 10 senses, the ego, the total nature, the primeval creator, and the demigods all originate from his bodily limbs. He cannot be known by sensory knowledge, and thus even Brahma and the other demigods are ignorant of his real identity. Different classes of people worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in different ways. Fruitive workers worship him by performing Vedic sacrifices, philosophers by renouncing material work and pursuing spiritual knowledge, yogis by meditating, Shaivites by worshipping Lord Shiva, Vaishnavas by following the injunctions of such scriptures as the Pancharatra, and other saintly persons by worshipping him as the original form of the self, of the material substance, and of the controlling demigods. Just as rivers flow from various directions into the ocean, the worship of those who dedicate themselves to the various entities finds its ultimate purpose within the Supreme Lord Vishnu. The form of the total universe, the Virat Roop, is imagined to be the form of Lord Vishnu. Like aquatics moving about in water, or like tiny insects burrowing in an udumbara fruit. All living beings move about within the Lord. These living beings, bewildered by his Maya, wander along the path of material work, falsely identifying with body, home, and so forth, under the sway of illusion. A foolish person may overlook a reservoir of water covered by grass and leaves, and instead run after a mirage. Similarly, living beings caught in the grip of ignorance abandon Lord Vishnu and become attached to their bodies, homes, and so on. Such faithful servants of their senses cannot take shelter of the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. Only if by his mercy they get the association of the saintly devotees will their material entanglement end. Only then can they develop Krishna consciousness by serving the Lord's pure devotees. Shri Akrura Vacha Natosmyaham Tvakhila Hetu Hetum Narayanam Purusham Adyam Avyayam Yanabhijata Daravinda Koshad Brahmavari Virashid Yata Esha Loka. Shri Akrura said, I bow down to you, the cause of all causes, the original and inexhaustible Supreme Person, Narayan. From the whorl of the lotus born from your navel, Brahma appeared, and by his agency, this universe has come into being. Bhushtoyam Agni Pavanam Kamadir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvendriyartha Vibudhasya Sarve Yehe Tavaste Jagatonga Bhuta. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, and its source, false ego, the Mahatattva, the total material nature, and her source, the Supreme Lord's Purusha expansion, the mind, the senses, the sense objects, and the senses residing deities, all these causes of the cosmic manifestation are born from your transcendental body. Naite Swarupam Viduratmanaste Hyajad Dayonat Mataya Grihita Ajonu Baddha Sagunaira Jaya Gunat Param Vedanate Swarupam. The total material nature and these other elements of creation certainly cannot know you as you are, for they are manifested in the realm of dull matter. Since you are beyond the modes of nature, even Lord Brahma, who is bound up in these modes, does not know your true identity. God is transcendental to the material nature. Unless we also transcend the limited consciousness of material existence, we cannot know him. Even the greatest living entity in this universe, Brahma, cannot understand the Supreme unless he comes to the platform of pure Krishna consciousness. Tam yogino jayantyada mahapurusham ishwaram. Sadhyatmam sadhibhutam cha Sadhit Daivam Sasadhava. Pure yogis worship you, the Supreme Personality Godhead, by conceiving of you in the threefold form comprising the living entities and material elements that constitute the living entities' bodies and the controlling deities of those elements. Trayacha vidyayat kechid tvam vai vaitang nikadvija yajante vitatair yagnair nana rupa marakhyaya. Brahmanas who follow the regulations concerning the three sacred fires worship you by chanting mantras from the three Vedas and performing elaborate fire sacrifices for the various demigods who have many forms and names. Akrura has now described how those who follow the paths of Sankhya Yoga and the three Vedas worship the Supreme Lord in different ways. In the various places where the Vedas appear to recommend that one worship Indra, Varuna, and other demigods, these demigods are stated to be supreme. But at the same time, the Vedas state that there is one supreme controller, the absolute truth. That is Sri Krishna, the personality of God, who expands his potency through material creation into the forms of the demigods. Thus, worship of all demigods goes to him through the indirect method of karma kanda, or fruit of religious rituals. Ultimately, however, one who wants to achieve eternal perfection should worship the Lord directly in full Krishna consciousness. Eke tvakhila karmani sannyasyo pashamam gata jnanino jnana yajnena yajanti jnana vigraham. The pursuit of spiritual knowledge, some persons renounce all material activities and having thus become peaceful, perform the sacrifice of philosophic investigation to worship you, the original form of all knowledge. Modern philosophers pursue knowledge without bothering to worship the Supreme Personality Godhead, and thus they naturally end up with a meager, if not trivial, results. Anyeche samskritatmano vidhina bhihitena te yajanti tvan maya svam svai bahumurtyeka murtikam. And yet others, those whose intelligence is pure, follow the injunctions of the Vaishnava scriptures promulgated by you. Absorbing the minds and thought of you, they worship you as the one Supreme Lord manifesting in multiple forms. The one Samskritatmana, they whose intelligence is pure, is significant here. It implies that the worshippers mentioned before have not completely purified their intelligence of material contamination, and thus worship the Lord indirectly. Those who are purified, however, directly worship the Lord, either as the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Krishna, or as one of his various plenary forms such as Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha as indicated here. Tvam evanye shivoktena margena shivarupinam bhavacharya vibhedena bhagavantam upasate. There are still others who worship you, the Supreme Lord, in the form of Lord Shiva. They follow the path described by him and interpreted in various ways by many teachers. The words Tvam Eva, you, also indicate that the path of worshipping Lord Shiva is indicated and therefore inferior. Akrura himself is following the superior method by directly worshipping Krishna or Vishnu with his prayers. Sarva eva yajanti tvam sarva deva mayeshwaram yepyanya devata bhakta yadyapyanya dhiya prabhu. But all these people, my Lord, even those who have turned their attention away from you and are worshipping other deities, are actually worshipping you alone, O embodiment of all the demigods. The idea here is that even those who worship the demigods are indirectly worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu. The understanding of such worshippers, however, is imperfect. Yathadri prabhavan nadya parjanya purita prabhu vishanti sarvata sindhum tadvatvam gatayon tata. As rivers born from the mountains are filled by rain, flow from all sides into the sea, so do all these paths in the end reach you, O Master. Lord Krishna himself speaks on the issue of the worship of the Supreme in the Bhagavad Gita. Yepyanya devata bhaktya yajante shraddhayanvita tepimam eva kamanteya yajantya vidha purvikam aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha natu mam abhijananti tatvenas tatvenataschavanti te yanti deva vrita devan prithvin yanti pritravrita bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajino pimam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors goes to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Sattvam srajastama iti bhavata prakritir guna teshu hi prakrita prota abrahma stavaradhaya. Goodness, passion, and ignorance, the qualities of your material nature, entangle all conditioned living beings, from Brahma down to the non-moving creatures. Tubhyam namaste tvavishakta drishtaye sarvatmane sarvadhiyam shashakshine guna pravahoyam avidyaya krita pravartate deva nrityag atmasu. I offer my obeisances to you, who as the supreme soul of all beings witness everyone's consciousness with unbiased vision. The current of your material bodies produced by the force of ignorance flows strongly among the living beings who assume identities as demigods, humans, and animals. Agnir mukham devaniranghririkshanam suryo nabho nabiratho disha shruti dhyokam surendra stava bhavor nava kukshir maru pranabalam prakalpitam romani vriksho sadaya sviroruha megha parasyasti nakhani tetraya nimeshanam ratrayahani prajapatir medhastu vrishti-stava viryam ishyate. Fire is said to be your face, the earth your feet, the sun your eye, the sky your navel, the directions are your sense of hearing, the chief of demigods your arms, and the oceans your abdomen. Heaven is thought to be your head, and the wind your vital air and physical strength. The trees and plants are the hairs of your body, clouds the hair on your head, and the mountain the bones, the nails of you, the supreme. The passage of day and night is the blinking of your eyes, the progenitor of mankind your genitals, and the rain your semen. Tvayavyayatman purushe prakalpita loka sapala bahujiva sankula yatha jale sanjihate jalaukaso pyudumbareva mashaka manomaye. All the worlds with their presiding demigods and teeming populations originate in you, the inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead. These words travel within you, the basis of mankind and senses, just as aquatics swim in the sea, or tiny insects burrow within an udumbara fruit. Yani harupani pidanartham vibharshiti teram rishta sucho loka mudagayanti te yasha. To enjoy your pastimes, you manifest yourself in various forms in this material world, and these incarnations cleanse away all the unhappiness of those who joyfully chant your glories. Namakarana matsyaya pralayabdhi charaya cha hayashirshne namastubhyam madhukaitabha vrityave akuparaya brihate namo mandara dharine Chityudhara Viharaya Nama Shukara Murtaye. I offer my obeisances to you, the cause of the creation, Lord Matsya, who swam about in the ocean of dissolution, to Lord Hayagriva, the color of Madhu and Kaitaba, to the immense tortoise, Lord Kurma, who supported Mandara mountain, and to the boar incarnation, Lord Varaha, who enjoyed lifting the earth. The Vishvakosha dictionary states that the word Akuparaya indicates the king of tortoises. Namaste Buddha Samhaya Sadhu Loka Bhayapaha Vamanaya Namastubhyam Kranta Tribhuvanaya Cha. Obeisances to you, the amazing lion, Lord Nrsimha, who remove your saintly devotees' fear, and to the dwarf Vamana who stepped over the three worlds. Namo Bhrigunam Pataye Dripta Kshatravana Chide Namaste Raghuvaryaya Ravananta Karaya Cha. Obeisances to you, Lord of the Bhrigus, who cut down the forest of the conceited royal order, and to Lord Rama, the best of the Raghu dynasty, who put an end to the demon Ravana. Namaste Vasudevaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Sattvatam Pataye Namaha. Obeisances to you, Lord of the Sattvatas, and to your forms of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Nama Buddhaya Suddhaya Daitya Danava Mohine Vichapraya Kshatrahantre Namaste Kalki Rupine. Obeisances to your form as the faultless Lord Buddha, who will bewilder the Daityas and Danavas, and to Lord Kalki, the annihilator of the meat-eaters, posing as kings. Bhagavan Jivalokoyam Mohitastava Mayaya Aham Mamitya Sad Graho Brahmyate Karma Vartmasu. O Supreme Lord, the living entities in the world are bewildered by your illusory energy, becoming involved in false concepts of I and mine. They are forced to wander along the paths fruited work. Aham chatmatma jagara dharartha svajanadishu dhammami swapna kalpeshu muda satya diya vibho. I too am deluded in this way, O Almighty Lord, foolishly thinking my body, children, home, wife, money, and followers to be real, though they are actually as unreal as a dream. Anityanatma dukkeshu viparyaya matirhyaham dvandvaramastamo vishto na jane tvatmana priyam. Thus mistaking the temporary for the eternal, my body for myself, and sources of misery for sources of happiness, I have tried to take pleasure in material dualities. Covered in this way by ignorance, I could not recognize you as the real object of my love. Yatha buddho jalam hitva pratichanam tad udbhavai abhyeti mriga krishnam vai tvatvaham paranmukha. Just as a fool overlooks a body of water covered by vegetation growing in it and chases a mirage, so I have turned away from you. Notsaheham kripanadi kama karma hatamana rodhum pramatibhish chakshir riyamanam ithastata. My intelligence is so crippled that I cannot find the strength to curb my mind, which is disturbed by material desires and activities, and constantly dragged here and there by my obstinate senses. So, hyam tavangre upagatosmya satam durapam tachapyaham bhavadanugraha ishamanye pumso bhavedyarhi samsarana pavargas tvayabjanabhasadupasanaya matisyat. Being thus fallen, I am approaching your lotus feet for shelter, O Lord, because although the impure can never attain your feet, I think it is nevertheless possible by your mercy. Only when one's material life has ceased, O lotus neighbor Lord, can one develop consciousness of you by serving your pure devotees. Namo Vijnana Namo Vijnanamatraya Sarva Pratyaya Hetave Purushesha Pradhanaya Brahmane Nanta Shaktaye. Obeisances to the Supreme Absolute Truth, the possessor of unlimited energies. He is the embodiment of pure transcendental knowledge, the source of all kinds of awareness, and the predominator of the forces of nature that rule over the living being. Namaste Vasudevaya Sarvabhutakshayaya cha Rishikesha Namastubhyam Prapannam Pahi Mam Prabhu. O son of Vasudeva, obeisances to you within whom all living beings reside. O Lord of the mind and senses, again I offer you my obeisances. O Master, please protect me, who am surrendered unto you. Thus ends the purport of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the 10th Canto, 40th chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Prayers of Akrura. Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Pranam Hari Hari.